Hello out there, fellow Riveters. Matt Irish with some winter riding tips. Now, I know a couple of weeks ago I promised you guys that I would talk a little bit about winterizing the Anthem or the Outset, and also about riding in cold weather and some general tips for that. As you can see from the fact that you can see my breath, the temperature has finally properly fallen here. We got about a foot of snow last night, so I am off the bike for now. I'm going to talk to you guys about some things you can see on the display, some things to expect when riding in cold weather, and also some best tips for storing your battery or your motorcycle when it's very cold. Let's get to it. One of the first things I wanted to talk about or show you guys is on the display itself. If you have an ASI equipped bike and the temperature is well below freezing, because of a funny math error between Celsius temperatures and Fahrenheit, when you turn the bike on, you may see this flashing engine icon over here, and you may also see, if I can get close enough here, a very strange and high temperature reading from the MCU. That is the motor controller unit. Now, you can ignore these warnings. The bike will operate normally, and as the temperature comes up, this number will return to a normal Fahrenheit figure when the controller temperature gets above 0 Celsius or above freezing. So as you can see, I just turned my wife's bike on here. You can see on the dash the same situation. You have the flashing light here and the temperature error on the display. That will go away when the bike gets warm enough when it comes up to temperatures. You don't need to be worried about that particular error. Speaking of temperatures below freezing, as a general rule, it's a good idea to pay attention anytime the temperature is below about 36 Fahrenheit. That's 1 or 2 degrees Celsius. That means that you're very close to freezing, and if you're out riding in those conditions, if you're riding through an area that's shady, an area where the roads are wet, or on any kind of bridge or overpass, you could have some freezing. Black ice on a motorcycle is no joke. Even if you have experience riding in the dirt or off-road or in slippery conditions, black ice on a street bike is different. You can end up on the ground before you realize what's going on. Another side note, invest in good gear. A proper headstock for under your helmet, a scarf to cover your neck, good gloves, even a heated vest if necessary to keep your core warm. There is nothing worse than getting very cold while you're out riding, and exposed skin at speed on a motorcycle can lead to frostbite. It's important to note, at speed, you're dealing with wind chills, not the ambient temperature. If it's already below freezing when you go out and you're going 60 or 70 miles an hour, you're deep into negative temperatures, exposed skin can be damaged very quickly. Make sure you gear up. For those of you actually riding in cold weather, shout out to the Clay Hoppers of the world and you guys up in like Boston, places like Portland where it's wet but not maybe below freezing. Particularly in places like Boston, things like that. If it's below freezing or it's been wet out, again, heed my warning about black ice and please be very careful. That said, if you are riding and it's very cold, there is a behavior of our drive system on Outset or Anthem that you should be aware of, and that is the maximum current available from the battery under throttle decreases with temperature and state of charge. There's a graph that the battery uses to calculate how much available current you have based on temperature and state of charge. You won't notice it very often, but it happened to me the other day riding in cold weather. I hadn't experienced it previously, and it was a little bit strange, so I wanted to make sure you guys understood. What you'll experience if you're, say, below 45, maybe down to like 30% state of charge, and you're getting on the freeway where you're going 65 or 70 miles an hour, and you need over 150 amps from the motorcycle to maintain that speed. If it's cold outside, approaching freezing, and you're below that state of charge, the battery is not able to deliver that current. Based on the chart and graph, it calculates what the peak current it can deliver is, and that's what it will give you as sustained power. However, it will still give you 10-second boosts, particularly with the ASI controller, you'll get a boost up to peak current for about 10 seconds, and that will allow you to accelerate, but then it will restrict you back to that maximum available current based on temperature and state of charge. So it can feel like perhaps your throttle has cut out or something has stopped working, you've lost drivetrain power because you're slowing down. That's not the case. if you look down at the dash on your motorcycle, you will see that it's still outputting some amount of current, usually something like 120, 130 amps, you'll still see on the display, even though you're slowing down. If you close the throttle, you would see that amp draw drop. If you open the throttle, you'll see it come back up. This indicates you still have power, but you are going to slow down. For that reason, I would suggest some caution if you're riding in a cold area and you know you have, say, a freeway ride on your commute home. Make sure you charge the motorcycle first so you have at least a 50 or 60% charge anytime you need to go true freeway speeds in very cold temperatures. Just a heads up. You can always take an alternate plan or a back route home where you don't need the full power for the freeway, or take some time to charge before you need to ride in those conditions. Just a heads up about this behavior. There's nothing wrong with your motorcycle. You can kind of see what's going on the dash. Maybe go out and try it on purpose a couple of times to see what it feels like, so you know what the behavior will be in the future. So that's kind of it for riding tips for winter. Keep it rubber side down, be aware of ice, dress warmly so you don't freeze any of your skin, and be aware that the motorcycle has certain unique behaviors when it's cold regarding state of charge and temperature. That pretty much covers those of you brave enough to ride in the cold weather. Let's talk about the rest of us who are going to put our motorcycles away. Now, the Anthem itself, or the Outset, doesn't really require any specific winterizing. Just try to put it somewhere where it's dry and it's not going to get a bunch of ice or water in it that's going to freeze over the winter. Store it inside if you can, or invest in a proper waterproof cover and make sure that it's attached to the motorcycle to prevent moisture and things from blowing up underneath. That's kind of going to cover the motorcycle, but let's talk about the battery. If it's going to be really cold out, less than 0 Celsius, less than 32 Fahrenheit, especially negative Fahrenheit temperatures, if it's well below freezing, consider storing your Anthem battery inside or somewhere warmer. Long-term exposure to extreme cold isn't great for your battery. So if you live in, the extreme north, Midwest, upstate New York, Vermont, places like that, you're going to make sure that you store this battery somewhere warm. It's okay to ride the bike when it's cold. It's okay to use the bike when it's cold, but you don't want to store it that way for long periods of time. We talked about the battery. Storage charge state should be somewhere between 50 and 75% for long-term storage. You can accomplish that a couple of ways. You can either plug the motorcycle in, watch the display, and unplug it when the bike gets to, between 50 and 75%. Or if the battery is off the bike, particularly if you're storing it indoors for winter, I'll show you how to check the LEDs on the top of the battery to indicate the state of charge and let you know when you should plug it in. As you can see, I've now got both batteries off of my Anthems. If you look at this battery here, you will see the 4 charge LEDs flashing on the battery, or one is flashing. This is an indication that this battery is nearly full. This battery is at about 90% state of charge when I just took it off the bike. So the LEDs will stay illuminated and flash, indicating that the battery is nearly full. This battery here is at about a 75% state of charge. If I quick press the button, I will see 3 LEDs lit up. That's an indication of about 75%. Your first LED is 0 to 25, second is 25 to 50, third is 50 to 75, and this is 75 to full. So you can always tell where the battery is even when it's off the bike. So on this battery, I would just check this periodically. And when I saw only 2 lights lit up instead of 3, plug it in to charge for a little while. When you see 3 lights illuminated, you can unplug it and keep it for storage. That's going to do it for this little installment of tips. Remember, if you are cold, they're cold. Keep your batteries or your motorcycles inside where it is above freezing for long-term storage. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at service@ryvid.com. Thank you very much. I'll see you when it's a little bit warmer.